Mission log number 254.
It's anything that you practice and you use consistently, you naturally would get better at it. I speak of it as your psychic muscle. You said going to the gym. If you go to the gym regularly, you get fit and strong. Well, that's what you do with your psychic muscle. The more you use it, it gets stronger and more available. And the more confirmed you are in your knowing, the more you trust it. And then you do it again and again. And the more trust you build, then it just becomes your normal.
Welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. Get inspired and live out loud. From love, freedom, and success to having it all. Here's your host, coach, speaker, and shining star, Orion.
Roger, you're looking good.
Hi and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. This is your host, Orion. I'm sure each and every one of you had you can call it a psychic experience, an interesting synchronicity, or things that happen that seem out of the ordinary. My very extraordinary guest today is a channel for beings, and today she's going to share with you how to become more psychic yourself, how to receive messages, and she was also kind enough to channel for us in this episode. Sheila Gillette had a near-death experience in 1969, and then she became the direct voice channel for a collective of 12 archangels known as THEO. In 1998, she published her first book, The Fifth Dimension, Channels to a New Reality, and also co-authored her second book, The Soul Truth, A Guide to Inner Peace, with her husband Marcus in 2009. Many people recognize Sheila and THEO from the Abraham Hicks publication as the mentor of Esther Hicks to open up to channel Abraham in 1984. Are you ready? Without further ado, on to the show.
2, 1, 0.
Hey Sheila, and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. It's truly an honor having you here. Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure, Orion, to be with you and with your listeners.
Yes. Before we begin, can you share a little bit about your mission and passion in life, and how did you find it?
Well, I found it through having a near-death experience in 1969, which was a catalyst for me opening up to be a direct voice medium for angelic beings known as THEO. And I've been doing this work for 5 decades, since 1969. And so it became my passion to share the wisdom and the teachings of THEO to all who have ears to hear in this time of a tremendous consciousness shift that's happening for our human species.
Wow. Did you have any specific spiritual beliefs that led you to that, or did it happen just like that? All of a sudden you became a channel?
Well, during my near-death experience, I had a miraculous healing, and that opened me up because I was in intensive care saying, hey, God, give me a job. I'll do anything. And what occurred then after I got better, my family was being prepared for my imminent death. I had pulmonary embolus, and I could not breathe. My lungs were non-functional. And it was after the birth of one of my children. And I felt as if I had an elephant sitting on my chest. I couldn't take a deep breath. But I knew if I closed my eyes, I would never open them again. So I just lay there and kept saying, I want to stay and be the mother to my children and just give me a job. And so 6 months after I got out of the hospital, the doctors were amazed. I had Jesus standing at the end of my bed in intensive care, and I heard him say to me in my inner mind, in a very distinct male voice, remember, my child, you are loved. And at that point, I felt this warmth surge through my body. And as it went through the trunk of my body, I felt as if I could take a deep breath.
Mm.
And it's as vivid to me right now talking about it as when it happened. And I started getting better. And like I said, I was in the hospital for a month. And then 6 months after I was at release, I started having all kinds of psychic things happening to me, internally, externally.
What kind of psychic things?
I had phenomenal experiences. I could hear information being given me just like I heard Jesus's voice in my inner mind, not externally as we hear each other. And then I could do automatic writing, which I got messages from. I had my bed levitate in the middle of the night.
Really? Wow.
Mm-hmm. That was, I had things that were off-putting and a little scary, but I always had confidence that this was part of the job I asked for. And then I tranced spontaneously and began being a direct voice, to the term that now everybody uses, a direct voice channel for the group called THEO.
Mm. And what was the reaction of your kids, your family, your husband when all this happened?
Well, my children's father, we were really young, and it frightened him. It frightened him. And to having his wife almost die and a brand new baby,
wow.
and then
wow.
have all of this psychic stuff start happening, it was frightening for him. My children were really small, so all they've pretty much known about me is this is what I do for a living. They've grown up with it. My two oldest probably, they were so small or young. They've never said really, other than, this is something I've done all their lives. And then, of course, my youngest daughter was the one that was born when I had my near-death experience. And my two daughters work in our company with us.
Are they psychic as well?
Yes, they're very intuitive. But you see, Orion, I believe everybody is. I think we may call it by different names, or we may be afraid of it, but we all are connected intuitively. And it just blossoms within us when we can let go of our resistance to it.
Right. So you've been very true to yourself and very honest with your request and your conversation with God, willing to take on this, which is, it's not an easy task. And I'm sure there are so many, it's so difficult. There are so many naysayers. There's so much judgment, I'm sure, that is coming from the outside world. And how was your journey of dealing with all that and literally exposing yourself as a medium, which is not an easy thing to do?
Well, now it's much easier than when I started. If you can imagine 50 years ago talking about this, it wasn't even openly discussed as it is today. And there were very few books. There were books. Edgar Cayce was the most famous medium at that time and had a book. But people didn't talk about this. If they did, it was in hushed conversations because people were fearful of it. The word psychic conjured up gypsies and mediums, the people that talk with the dead and the occult, and people were frightened of it. So it wasn't something I would go into a party or social situation and say, well, guess what I can do? Because people were afraid to discuss it. So over the years, I've watched these waves of spiritual awakening happening where people are having their own experiences and wanting to know more about them. And so it's more acceptable today than it was back then. But I was tested for my psychic ability by scientists, physicists that were researching metaphysics and parapsychology. And that was really a wonderful experience for me because what it did was validate my abilities, but more importantly, to say you're not crazy, you're psychic.
Nice. Can you give me an example of that?
Well, I worked with these doctors who had been testing psychics in different ways. We did telepathy testing, remote viewing, which replaced the ESP, extrasensory perceptivity. They did these kinds of tests about psychokinesis, touching an object and knowing something of them. But they had done many tests, and what it basically said is people are psychic. I am a psychic, but others as well. But the greatest thing was, is I gave personal sessions to them individually, and that was more affirming for them than anything, because they heard things about themselves and about their future that I couldn't possibly have known.
Wow.
That was given them, that validated them and me. So that was pretty exciting.
Wow.
But over the years, I was given information I couldn't know that then was later on confirmed and affirmed. I got information about the Watergate situation, President Nixon, 2 years before it was made public.
Wow.
And so things like that kept happening. So I trusted implicitly. Now, to your question about, the commitment to God that has kept me going when things got a little shaky. There are moments in time with any work that anybody does that you go, I don't know if I want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
But I'd made that commitment. And that kept me focused on it. No matter what was happening, I knew what my experience of it was. For an example, I had several interviews on TV and on radio in which, the naysayers, as you say, and skeptical people would, well, how do you know that? And why do you know that? I said, I'm not here to convince you. I'm just here to share my experience, and my experience I know is truth. And what you think of it really is none of my business, because, unless somebody has similar experiences, they can't relate to it. Or unless they have an experience with Theo that is validated, they can't relate to it. So, I just stayed the course with sharing the information and sharing my experience of it. And it's just grown with people interested in hearing the guidance and the information, and then also working in our mentoring programs and so forth to expand their own awareness and their own gifts.
Right. When was the first time you encountered Theo and you knew, oh, this is Theo, this is what they are, and this is their name?
Actually, I had a first spokesman was by the name of Orlos. And that was 2 years before Theo came in. And Orlos kept telling me, very soft-spoken, and kept saying, we're here to prepare your body for higher teachers, because they come into my body and it's a very intense, high energy thing. And so I was doing a session, a small group session, and Orlo said, the higher teachers are here. It's time for us to leave. And then Theo came in, and they were very loud, very computer-esque sounding. They've softened over the years working with me to a more soft dialogue. But they came in and they said, we are 12 archangels here for the shift of consciousness for humanity. We will be known collectively by the name Theo. And they said, we will not identify singularly, because the message is what is important, not the messenger. And they told me to look up the name in the dictionary, which I did. And it said the beginning, or God, is Theo. And I've got to tell you, Orion, I guess I'm a slow learner. But I thought for several years, well, why, when they come in, they always say, this is the beginning, is it not?
This is what my question was. I asked Stefan, I was like, why do they always say that?
Because it's the definition of Theo.
Ah,
This is the beginning, is it not? And that was the first definition,
nice.
the beginning or God. So it was about 5 years, Orion, that finally I went, oh my gosh, they are introducing themselves. But I, like you, went, well, why don't they just say, oh, it's Theo? Till I realized that's what they were doing.
When you channel Theo, like when I see you, I'm in your mentoring program with my husband, and it's wonderful. And when you are you're very elegant and soft spoken. And the moment you channel Theo or allow them to, as you say, take over your body, it changes. It's harder. It's more masculine. It's like you're somebody else.
Yes, that was what was frightening for my children's father when it all happened, because my whole demeanor changes because it's a different energy. And as you probably noticed, of course, it sounds more masculine, and there is an accent. And it's interesting. I asked, where is the accent from? And they said it's not a particular place, that they come through the vibrational frequencies of sound, of all of our speaking and so forth. And so it's a combination of vibrational frequency of all language when they speak through me. But it does have a different kind of accent. And it's less pronounced today than it was originally, because they've softened and blended more with my energy, because we've been doing this several decades. So it's
amazing.
Become very comfortable with each other.
So if you look several decades ago, did you have to go through some kind of a spiritual boot camp in order to be able to receive this super high frequency in your body? Did it give you headaches, or did you have any side effects?
There have been up-leveling of vibrational frequencies throughout the years. I can't specifically remember any headaches, but what did happen when they came in, you know how when you hit your elbow and you have that tingling nerve energy that goes through your body, and it's a different kind of pain. It's just uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. I had that happening in my shoulders, my neck, and my head for the first probably 4 to 5 days whenever they would come in. And I thought to myself, if this continues, I'm not going to do it, because it was so uncomfortable. But they said it won't last, and that was just an adjustment in the cellular structure of my body to meet with their energy. So in the beginning, there was those feelings, and then over time, there have been adjustments. It's kind of like, when you're listening to the radio, if you're listening to terrestrial radio, not cable radio, but terrestrial, which is the old AM radio, if you're not right on the station, you get static. You can't hear it as well. And so that's what they likened what was happening to my body was an alignment of the frequencies and the vibrations so that there could be a match to communicate.
Sheila, you said that everyone can be a psychic. And now you also talked about frequency and preparing the vessel to receive this light, this energy, this frequency. What can one do to be more open to that frequency and condition their hearts, minds, bodies to receive that?
To the statement you just made, I believe we're all psychic. We're all connected to our intuition. We may call it something else. And we all receive information by the way we learn. If we're an auditory learner, if that's how you take in information, you will hear messages. Mm-hmm. If you're a visual person, you learn best visually. then you'll get dreams and pictures and visions. But we all have the capability to receive in different ways. First of all, we're sentient beings. Our body's our best receiver because we have all those sensory things going on. So our first thing we learn is how to discern if we're safe in our environment. And so the basic fright, flight, freeze, or fear thing happens immediately in the sense of feeling in our body and knowing if we're safe or not. So that's very defined over years of time because that's our first sensory perceptor. And then we develop other things. Some people say, well, I just knew it. They call it a gut feeling. Well, that's a psychic experience. Where's that coming from? It's coming from all your senses. I'm an auditory learner, so I started getting the messages as I heard Jesus in intensive care speak to me auditorily, but it's like hearing your own thoughts. But I heard him because I heard a distinct male voice, not my own female voice in my head. And then it developed into these other things, these other perceptors that we have. I've had visions. I've had prophetic dreams. I've had different things that have happened as I made it welcome in my experience, as I let go of resistance.
And that's the hardest in letting go of resistance. I am taking the course with you. And yesterday we had an exercise where we just closed our eyes and we worked in pairs, and we needed to listen in and see what we get about the other person. And I got words that did not make sense at all. And then when I spoke with her, actually, it did make sense, which helped me trust my psychic ability a little bit more. And you said that it's like going to the gym. The more you do it, the better you get at it.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It's anything that you practice and you use consistently, you naturally would get better at it. I speak of it as your psychic muscle. You said going to the gym. If you go to the gym regularly, you get fit and strong. Well, that's what you do with your psychic muscle. The more you use it, it gets stronger and more available. And the more confirmed you are in your knowing, the more you trust it. And then you do it again and again. And the more trust you build, then it just becomes your normal. I use my psychic ability every day. I play with it too. It's really fun, if, for an example, you're at the market and you're waiting in line. Of course, with COVID, we couldn't do that, but now things are opening up. You can do that. You can go to the market and, you just stand there. You hear people having a conversation. Well, I would just think to myself, what's the next word that person's going to say in this conversation?
Really?
I just test myself, and I was able to do that. And I just made it fun. It makes it magical when you start using your abilities and experimenting with them. As you know from yesterday, when we experimented in class with each other, it's empowering, isn't it? To think, gosh, I really did that.
Yes, it was empowering. It was super empowering. And I also noticed that even though I had many psychic experiences in my life and I coach, so when I coach people, even though I learned so many methodologies, what I believe is it's like nothing in comparison to the universal Google and all the information I can get from there. And every time I coach someone and I feel like I'm trying to pushing versus allowing, I just stop and I just allow the information to come through me, and I will say the right thing, even if it doesn't make sense to me, and it will help that person. So I have that. And also lately I noticed that I have so much resistance to like it's almost like an inner conflict. One hand, I really want it. On the other hand, I'm really scared of it.
Yeah, that's the human condition. But what is there to be afraid of other than if you think you're going to see something that's uncomfortable? Or...
Yes, I'm afraid of dead people. I'm afraid of ghosts. I'm afraid of dark entities. I come from a Jewish background and I studied some Kabbalah, and in Kabbalah there is the belief of light and dark entities. And I am afraid of even, I don't know, this whole, maybe I watched too many Hollywood movies.
Yeah. Many of us have, yes.
Yeah. So that is the fear of encountering something that I cannot handle or that it's going to hurt me or my family.
You know, that's giving our power away when we do that. Theo has taught me from the very beginning that nothing can do anything to you that's not allowed. So it's all in a belief area. See, you may have energy that comes around you that makes you uncomfortable, but it won't harm you. And you have the power to say, no, you're not allowed here. And spirit abides by that because you're a divine being having a human experience. And that we tend to think that we aren't that powerful. But your soul's much larger than your physical body. And of course, on the earth, there's the two polarities, the positive and negative energies. That doesn't mean light, dark, good, bad. It's just energy. Everything's got energy. And there have been people who have misused their power in trying to control others by telling them that some dark force is going to take them over. And movies have been great, you know, horror movies and all of those.
I hate horror movies.
I know, I do too.
Never come close to horror movies, but you know, every once in a while, even it just seems like all the new TV shows, even kids' TV shows, are becoming just darker and darker. Even if you watch, I don't know, you probably never watched Harry Potter, but if you look at the first movie,
I like Harry Potter.
I love Harry Potter. So the first movie is all sunshine and rainbows, and then as they grow, it becomes darker and darker and darker, darkest, dark. So if you watch TV and you watch some kid show, it becomes really, really dark, and I think it affects our subconscious mind.
It does, except if we can speak to our children or talk amongst ourselves, because typically in stories like Harry Potter, there's a message underlying all of that stuff about positive thinking and negative thinking, good versus evil sort of things.
Right.
And it's all about growing us emotionally to know that emotions are just on a spectrum like a rainbow. And there's different, like in the different hues of color in a rainbow, as you look at it, you know, it goes from light to darker, not the colors, but in the color itself, you know, there's different gradients. Well, in emotions, we have the same thing, but most of us are trying to avoid feeling uncomfortable. We take the good stuff for granted most of the time, and the bad stuff we keep trying to push away, or what we call bad. And it's not really bad, it's just an emotional experience, but because we're uncomfortable with it, we think it's bad. But some of the richest experiences to understand are on that part of the spectrum of the emotional rainbow, let's say. How would we not understand joy if we don't understand grief?
Yes, it's so true.
It's all there for the richness of our human experience. And so when we start learning how not to avoid the uncomfortable feelings, we can really find that sense of joy fully by embracing all of them. They don't have to be a negative. So that's what I think in those terms of teaching of the different gradients emotionally, but also what is consciousness to us and how can we recognize how to up level, if we would, our species, our world with compassion, collaboration, and understanding, rather than I have to protect myself from you.
Yes.
We're all the same. We all want the same things. We want to be healthy. We want to love and be loved. We want to have a good life, whatever a good life means to each and every one of us. But everybody wants the same thing. They want to enjoy life and the people they love. And so I think that's where we're going with this whole evolution of consciousness, is to have an understanding is that we are a collaborative species. We're stronger together than we are apart. And that if we work together, we can bring forth a greater world than if we divide ourselves. And that's what we're getting to look at in the world today, is with this extreme chaos and change that is happening, is that by each and every one of us saying what they want and demanding what they want, Theo talks about, have been talking about this time we're living in right now for 4 decades, that there would be this time of change because it's the fifth dimensionary energy that's here now, which is a greater awakening and awareness of who we truly are as souls and powerful beings, and that we can live harmoniously on the planet. And we're experiencing, we're being part of that change. You and your family and me and my family and our extended families and our extended friends and all of that about our species to bring about a better world.
That's beautiful.
It's an exciting time to be alive, stressful sometimes.
Yes.
But, if we're willing to do our part individually, we're all going to be okay.
Yes, we will. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Sheila, can I ask you to invite Theo? And also, do I just tell them, Theo, we're done and then you come back? Or how do we end?
Yes.
Okay.
It's as simple as that. You can say, I'm complete with my questions. And then they'll give you a salutation and they'll leave and I'll be back.
Okay.
All right.
Wow.
It takes just a few seconds, and as you've experienced, and then I'll see you in a little while.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Here we go. It is the beginning, is it not?
It is. Thank you,
We
Theo.
are appreciative of the opportunity to be of service unto you. You may ask.
Thank you so much. Theo, what are angels?
They are energies just as you are, vibrational frequencies. It's here as mentors and teachers for the evolving consciousness of the human species.
And how can we communicate with angels? Does everyone have angels?
Yes, they do. And in the asking, it is given. You may call upon the angelic realm at all times. They're just waiting to assist you.
Mm-hmm. How many angels are there?
There are millions. It's beyond comprehension.
Wow.
In conscious mind, because the human conscious mind thinks in pictures. And if you have not had an experience or pictures of what it is, it's difficult to describe.
Yes. What is the multiverse?
That's talking about the multi-universes and systems.
What does that mean?
Means there are many universes and even universes within universes.
Hmm. Does that mean that it's the same as Earth, but in a different universe, things happen with a different outcome?
Yes, but there's a myopicness about thinking that the earth is the only place of experience, and it's not. There are billions of choices that a soul could make to experience. The earth is only one. Even in your universe, there are thousands of planets that have not been found yet or seen that are available for an inhabitant.
Mm. Where did humanity came from?
Humanity is connected to this earthly plane. Souls are eternal. You could even call it the Big Bang as it created your universe, but in that sense, that energy is constant. It is only form that has changed.
Mm. Are human beings mixed with alien DNA?
Yes,
How did that happen? Do we come from different planets?
yes.
Can you tell me more about that?
So again, there's a myopic idea about this in the sense of the form of the human being is aligned to the earth. The earthly body is your earth suit that your soul engages in to travel and experience the earth. Yes, it's like a spacesuit if you're in a rocket ship. You're born into this human expression or human body. And then when it's time to leave it, at the end of that incarnation, you birth into the multidimensional essence of which you are once again, fully.
Who are the aliens that our DNA is mixed with?
There are many. So when you speak of aliens, can you imagine that you are one? And why we say this is because you could have chosen another planet or universe to be experiencing.
Uh-huh.
Yes?
Mm-hmm.
And now you're a human on Earth. But you've had all those other experiences as well. So we could say that it's as one of your leaders spoke many years past, that we have met the enemy and it is us.
Mm-hmm.
We have met the aliens and it is us.
Are aliens only energy forms, or do they have physical form?
Some have physical form.
Some physical form beings came to the earth and mixed with human beings?
No. What they have done is they've been in physical form as what you call aliens,
Mm-hmm.
which is an interesting word in and of itself, because you speak of people from other countries as aliens as well.
I know, that's funny.
So what it is you're just a different species now. You're a human species.
Mm-hmm.
Not as you call alien. What your name, Orion, that's a constellation. That's a universe.
What are the different dimensions, and what is the fifth dimension looks and feels like?
You're experiencing it. You're experiencing this greater open to this frequency, no longer the density between the dimensions as there's been in the past. The third dimension is your physical reality. The fourth has been a spiritual awakening. The fifth is a fuller expression of your divine mastery. The sixth will be experienced in the physical as well, with a total knowing as what you might call the masters who have come before, that have had that greater awareness and abilities. You all come from a shamanic background, the ability to manipulate vibration and frequencies in the earthly plane. But there are 12 dimensions about the earth, 6 to be expressed in the physical, The rest are etheric, that you are connected to, but not limited to.
Is everyone on the planet now elevating to the 5th dimension?
Yes, it's surrounding your planet. It's the vibration, the frequency, the energy that is all around that's unseen. But it exists just like electricity has always existed. Yes?
Yes. And how is it going to affect humanity?
It's changing consciousness right now. The refinement of the energy and the awareness of one's soul allows an alignment on a soul level of recognition and awareness that is beyond the physical.
Do we manifest more from a place of the 5th dimension?
It's easier, yes.
Yes. How can we manifest more good in our lives? Because sometimes, I'll just take myself as example, I sometimes feel like, oh, I feel spiritual and open and everything is comfortable. But then I also have other experiences where I don't feel like I can move forward or manifest anything. So what should me or somebody that is listening to us can do to balance those energies and manifest better things?
We have created a program that we have called Soul Integration Process.
Mm-hmm.
And what that is releasing beliefs, limiting beliefs. And those beliefs have been passed along genetically and societally for thousands of years, and they don't work anymore. So when one recognizes that they're blocking the flow in their lives, but it's your birthright to have all your dreams and desires met because you're a master creator. And you have evidence in your life where that's been true, that you have created something, you've thought about it, you've made it a must in your life, and it all worked out. But then there's those moments when you doubt. Who is the doubter? It's part of this fragmented aspect of the soul that has a belief that one is not worthy of that outcome.
Do limited beliefs come from previous lives?
They can, but they come predominantly in the present incarnation through events and circumstances in which beliefs about the self are adopted from outside influences, opinions of others, or the event itself. And events won't change because that's history, but perception about the event can assist in changing the belief of not being worthy to being worthy.
Mm-hmm. Can you share some tips and techniques on how to clear unworthiness and how to shatter limiting beliefs?
Notice what you're noticing. Where's the resistance? Where are you reactive in life? For if you're reacting to a certain stimulus that's happening in your life, you're upset, you're angry, there's emotional charge, you're in reaction. Who is reacting? The adult you is not the reactor. It is one of these aspects of self that is defensive and defending the self that holds a belief. And what is that belief? It comes from not believing one is worthy, lovable, not enough. So you become familiar with where that began, where the belief was adopted or created. It's just simply untrue.
Mm.
And you can reframe that belief. And not reframing the event, you see it, you experience the event, but your perception can change by looking for the blessings and the gifts that made you the person you are today. If you had not had that experience, it wouldn't have influenced you in the now. So there's great power in shifting from victimization to the challenge growing you. Yes?
Yes. Sometimes I feel like I can see my limiting beliefs. I can see the source, or what I assume is the source of those limiting beliefs. And even though I have the knowledge of it, it doesn't seem to change.
That's because you hold on to being victimized by whatever the event was.
And how does one releases that?
By looking through different lenses. The event happened, that's not going to change. But how you view it and experience it now, you experienced it that one way. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Which that part of self became frozen in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
What we encourage doing is the present you, the adult you, speak to this part of self at whatever age it is, where it became frozen in that moment, and let it know that it's loved and worthy, and you're bringing it with you into the now, into the present. You're bringing it home into your heart with love.
Mm.
In essence, you're reparenting it.
Mm.
You're becoming the best parent. So you have a child. What would you say to this part of yourself, as if it's your child, to give it comfort and love and a feeling of trust to come forward?
Nice. What can I do to become a better mother to my son?
Listen. Boundaries are important. A parent is there to, yes, protect the child from physical harm, yes,
Mm-hmm.
but to encourage growth. When your child speaks of their knowing, most young children, they're so close to their soul's essence and knowing that they may speak about their angels that are there. They may speak about things that they know. Encourage that.
Mm-hmm.
That empowers them to continue to use their greater awareness. And listening and speaking the truth to them. Yes?
Yes. I feel like always have the need I want to protect him from the world. I want to protect him from getting hurt physically, mentally, emotionally. I don't want to expose him to screens and TV and everything that's going on in the world right now. And I know that it's not something that I can control. So how can I release this in me and make sure that he's having like the best upbringing ever?
So, as we said, speak the truth to him in age-appropriate truths, of course. But don't protect him from his own learning. Yes, you want to protect him from harm, but don't protect him from his own emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what he's here to learn, just as you are.
Mm-hmm.
So each soul draws unto themselves perfectly what's appropriate for their expansion and growth. So protect him physically so he doesn't harm himself, like running in a street full of traffic, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have interesting conversations, protecting him from a world that he's to live in, he doesn't have to see all the chaos, but you can have conversations with him that allows for him to have his curiosity and learn at the same time. Yes?
Yes. Thank you. Whew. I really appreciate you talking to me, and right now I am complete.
We are complete for this moment as well. We assist you in your asking, and in the asking it is given. God's love unto you.
And on to you.
Good day.
Good day.
Hi, Orion.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Oh, good, great. Wow, when you have those conversations with you, do you remember everything?
I don't remember everything, but I do hear it. I know they're speaking, but I don't retain all the information.
Wow. Do you ever re-listen to Theo?
Oh, yes. Yes, I do. And oftentimes when I re-listen to it, I'll go, oh, I know that. So it's in there somewhere where it's retained, but it's not a conscious recall.
Wow, that was a fabulous experience. I felt like a little girl, like being really excited in front of a big teacher.
Oh, good. Good.
That was really cool. Wow.
Great.
Sheila, what are your 3 top tips to living a stellar life?
Saying yes to life. Most of the time we're thinking that's what if something goes wrong? That's the old way of thinking. What I'd say, shift that, flip that. What if to what if something really great is happening for me now? And that's how I live. What if something great is happening for me now? It's changing those neural pathways from the default to fright, flight, fear, freeze, and the shoe's going to drop, or however people think about it, is fear asks the same thing of us. Fear and faith ask the same thing of us.
What do they ask?
To believe in something that's yet unseen.
Ah, that is powerful. Wow.
So why not have faith?
I love that. Wow. That is so powerful. Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah, that's why. What if something great is happening for me now? That's an expectancy of great things.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, your generosity, your kindness, and the gift that you are to the world. Before we say goodbye for now, where can people find you and learn from you and learn from Theo?
Well, we have a great website. It's called asktheo.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sheila.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's been my privilege to talk with you today, Orion, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Yes.
Bye for now.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, listeners. Remember to say yes to life and ask yourself, what if something great is happening for me now? And have a stellar life. This is Orion. Till next time.
Thank you for joining me on my mission to light people up and change lives around the world. I hope today's conversation inspires you to step up, go after the life of your dreams, and be who you want to be. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go to stellarlifepodcast.com for show notes, transcripts, and other cool stuff. And please subscribe, review, and help spread the word by sharing us on Facebook and Twitter. Have a lovely day, and I'll catch you on the next episode.